So, gentlemen, we're back at it again. Thucydides, Book 2.
Book 2.
Book Dos. And we start off with the Peloponnesian War is taking place. The first invasion of Attica is taking place.
Yeah.
Right? That's when it starts. That's how it starts. So we start with the Thebans trying to take the city of Plataea.
Plataea.
Yes. But they are routed away from the town. Right?
Kind of. Yeah. More like they invade the town and the guys just let them in. Like just one guy who just lets them in. And like they enter. And the Thebans are like thinking, we should kill all these people, but like they're too slow.
To have it happen.
That's how it happened. So the citizens decide to kill them first. So the Thebans lost 300 men.
We had the king of the Lacedaemonians, but Spartans, right?
Yeah.
Archidamus.
Mm-hmm.
We have his forces ravaging many Athenian cities around this part. So we're also seeing, and because of that, Pericles is also commanding the Athenians to stay within the walls of their city, right? So the Spartans are on the offensive, Athenians are within their walls.
Well, because they'd lose.
Exactly, because as we've established that Athens dominates the sea, Sparta dominates the land.
And we'll see that further into the book as well.
Exactly. So the Athenians, they have a difficult time adjusting to, being within the walls. Insufficient space for everybody crammed in. And
they had to send a few people to the colonies so there would be more space.
exactly. And those people in the colonies were actually going to have a pretty decent time. So the Lacedaemonians then start. Well, it says that they ravaged the Athenian forces. The Athenian navy also plundered a lot of towns in the Peloponnesus,
On the coast.
the Peloponnesus coast, sunk a lot of towns. Pericles then gives a very famous funeral oration for everyone that died in the first year of that conflict.
Was that? Okay, yeah, that's before the plague.
Yeah. Most of the speech was praising Athens, right? On their excellence. So I got an excerpt that I rewrote. I could have wished that the reputations of many brave men were not to be imperiled in the mouth of a single individual, to stand or fall according as he spoke well or ill, for it is hard to speak properly upon a subject where it is even difficult to convince your hearers that you are speaking the truth. On the one hand, the friend who is familiar with every fact of the story may think that some point has not been set forth with that fullness, which he wishes and know it to deserve. On the other, he who is a stranger to the matter may be led by envy to suspect exaggeration if he hears anything above his own nature. For men endure to hear others praised only so long as they can severely persuade themselves of their own ability to equal the actions recounted. When this point is passed, envy comes in, and with it incredulity.
Yeah, honestly, you mentioned that he was mostly praising Athens.
Yes.
But for me, it's more like I interpret it as rather than praising Athens, it's more like telling people we are great, we're strong people, and that's like by default saying we should endure what the Spartans are doing in the countryside. We shouldn't give up or anything, because a lot of the people they're losing their property, they're losing their land, and we even see how Pericles, since he's friends with one of the generals of the Spartans, he said, well, in the case that my land is just not gonna be overrun or sacked like all your other towns, I'll just donate it to the city. So we're in this together.
Yeah, which is a really heroic thing. And again, Thucydides portrays Pericles as a really intelligent and a good orator too.
Yeah, he's a very good speaker, and at this point, obviously it's a funeral. A lot of people have very low morale, right? People are dying. Like they're all nervous. Like they don't know what's
They're
going
being
on.
clustered into the city.
Yep, exactly. And he's trying to raise their spirits, like boost their morale. Say we could get through this. We're a strong country. We're a strong nation. We'll get through this.
And like he also mentions a lot that like in that like all of the Peloponnese, the Lacedaemonians, have to ally up with a bunch of cities, while Athens is like he considers Athens an empire, because like they're like all their allied cities aren't really on equal footing. Like
Yeah.
they have an internal like acknowledgement that like we're not allies, we're like the dominant partner here.
Yeah.
So like they're saying that like they have to like take us with numbers, because like otherwise they wouldn't really be able to handle us. So like that's also another thing to say, that like, hey, we don't necessarily have a disadvantage in this. Like that's something like he's bringing up.
He's a really good orator. He's a really good politician, and he really knows how to reinvigorate the crowd. So to continue on that speech, he also says, holding that vengeance upon their enemies was more to be desired than any personal blessings, and reckoning this to be the most glorious of hazards, they joyfully determined to accept the risk. He's talking about the people who lay down their lives, to make sure of their vengeance and to let their wishes wait, all while committing to hope the uncertainty of final success. In the business before them, they thought fit to act boldly and trust in themselves. Thus, choosing to die resisting rather than to live submitting, they fled only from dishonor, but met danger face to face. And after one brief moment, these take as your model to how you should live. Like these men bravely fought for Athens. So they take these men as your model, and judging happiness to be the fruit of freedom and freedom of valor, never decline the dangers of war.
Mm-hmm.
So he's basically praising Athens, praising the heroic deeds of these men, and encouraging others to do the same. It's all about committing to hope the uncertainty of the final success, the uncertainty. Hoping for the uncertainty of success.
Oh, by the way, was it also in this chapter as well that like whenever the Athenians start to attempt to fight the Spartans or Lacedaemonians on land, they always like lose?
Is it in this chapter or is it in chapter 7? I forgot.
It's like I think it should probably be like around there.
Yeah.
But like it is mentioned that like they see how like Athens like is really good at like attacking the coast, so like they start doing that, and then you have other Athenians say, hey, like we have victories, and you have like an Athenian general say, hey, let's take our men and try to fight the Spartans on land, and they do that and then they fail like pretty bad, like pretty badly actually, like it's like yeesh, like any other era that would have ended your empire.
Yeah, but luckily the city hasn't fallen at this point for the Athenians.
Yeah, we got like 12 more years or something.
And then we go to chapter 7, and this is also where...
Oh, we should also mention the first attack on Attica and the funeral orations. That was all in the first year.
Yes. So then in chapter 7, we go to the second year of the war.
Yeah.
And we also get the plague of Athens is put into this. And we also learn more about the position and policies of Pericles, right? So Thucydides, he gives a description of the symptoms of the plague that afflicted the Athenians during the war. He says that the disease began as a fever and then became progressively worse until the person could not even quench their thirst or wear any clothing. So it got to the point where you couldn't stop being thirsty and you couldn't physically wear clothing. They were retching, they were vomiting, there was severe diarrhea, which weakened the person until they succumbed to death, which is like dysentery, right? That's what dysentery is. The fortunate ones who survived, but they lost limbs, sometimes even their eyes.
Yeah.
And then we go to Thucydides talking about how many Athenians then resented Pericles. They did not like him because of the plague. They blamed him for it. Partially because he's the one that's telling them to keep fighting, right? So they see it as his fault, or maybe it's like a divine thing.
It's also the case that like Pericles, they called like Thucydides called him the author of the war. Like he like very much pushed for this war to happen as well.
Yeah.
And we should also mention that there's a bunch of city people locked up in Athens when they would rather not do that as well.
So yeah, many Athenians blame Pericles for that. And some even discuss making peace, capitulating to the Spartans. Pericles then gives another speech in which he again tries to persuade the Athenians to keep going in the war, not to quit, and also removes some feelings of blame that are held by some of the Athenians towards him. Now, Thucydides believes that the Athenians eventually lost the war because Pericles died during the second year of the war. And there was no strong replacement to replace Pericles and lead the people.
At what point did he die in the second year again?
It should be like in the middle, Paul. It should be in the middle of chapter 7.
Okay.
Yeah. But the plague takes Pericles' life as well. So Thucydides blames Athens' loss on the loss of Pericles. Mm-hmm. So again, that introduction of the great man theory, I think you were proposing as well, that's also being seen here. Because in his eyes, like these great men have huge influence on the outcome of the war. Mm-hmm. So he thinks there's no subsequent good replacement. Instead, Thucydides says the leaders after Pericles, they were actually led by the whims of the multitude rather than by their own intuitions and reasons. So they're just capitulating and sucking up to the population instead of using their own intelligence and guts to lead this war. But Athens also successfully takes Potidea after trying to besiege the city for many, many years. The inhabitants of the city were so starved that some of them even resorted to cannibalism. And one of the results of the plague was just the elimination of law and order, you could say, within Athens, the degradation of their morals. Thucydides describes how some people disregarded the laws of men and the laws of the gods. People indulged in every pleasure, believing since they could die soon, they could do whatever they want. So a lot of them sort of even sold their houses and used the money to spend on whatever pleasures they wanted. So Thucydides also writes that some people frequented their friends who had also caught the plague. He writes that, and that's all I wrote for chapter.
Well, I think it actually does make sense why people acted that way. Like, first of all, everyone's miserable in there. No one actually wanted that. They're suffering of a plague that as they don't know what it really is.
No.
They're I think the city said this plague was never happened. So they have no knowledge about it, and they're watching they're besieged by pretty much every other city. So they're kind of seeing Athens is falling into ruin, and we can't do much about it.
Yeah.
And so I'm seeing more just a general sense of despair, in there. Though they do have some wins with Potidea, where they gets colonized by a few Athenians.
Later on, yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think, Dylan?
So, there's just one part that I found very interesting where it says, for the catastrophe was so overwhelming, referring to the plague, that men, not knowing what would happen next to them, became indifferent to every rule of religion and law.
Yeah.
So again, to a country, right, that was so big on religion, gods, things they believed in, as soon as they fell sick, they thought that like they're gonna die, it's the end. They just abandoned everything they believed in. They spent their money frivolously.
Yep.
And I just thought like how as soon as chaos enters the fold, everything is abandoned. Which again, we usually see like in like looking at modern day equivalences like apocalypse. What do you call it? Even during COVID, right? Like everyone lost their minds. You know, everyone went out to buy the toilet paper, right? Like you're buying things like on a whim. So it's like all logic flies out the window when you think it's the end.
Shit's gonna hit the fan.
Shit's gonna hit the fan, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I guess
That's the end of the second year of the war.
Yeah. So then we go to the third year of the war, which is in chapter 8.
Honestly, we pretty much do have to mention that while this is going on, their countryside is being pillaged the entire time.
Yeah, because the Spartans are still there. So then now we're at the third year of the war. So we're now in the third year of the war, which the Spartans are still besieging Plataea. In the chapter, they describe a number of tactics. Thucydides described a number of tactics that they tried, including burning the city itself, but all attempts failed.
They also mentioned that like Plataea was they were having a discussion with Plataea saying, hey, we kind of have, this is like kind of rightfully ours. You don't really have like a moral right to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the Spartans saying, they might be right, so let's give them a choice. Like we say, either you either continue what you're doing, which in this case we will attack you, or in the other case you'll stay neutral. And by the way, Plataea can actually make their own decisions, because all like their women and kids are with Athens.
Yeah. So they're forced.
So like they like do like a symbolic. What I think is like they did a symbolic asking of Athens. Hey, what should we do? Should we stay neutral or should we help you with this war? And then Athens is like, oh yeah,
you're gonna help us with this war.
Obviously that's what they were gonna do.
So yeah, interesting that Thucydides includes that point in there. We also hear of an Athenian admiral called Phormio, right? He successfully defeats a Peloponnesian fleet at Naupactus. The Athenian fleet, was composed of 20 ships, while the Peloponnesians had over 40. However, the Athenians had lost a second battle that followed soon after this one. In that second battle, the Peloponnesians possessed over 70 ships, and they were able to take more than half of the Athenian ships from that first battle. And then we're also introduced to somebody named Cyaxares, who is a Thracian and allies himself with Athens. He also leads an attack from Macedonia, or into Macedonia. He also ravages a lot of the lands of Macedonia.
But they can't really take it completely.
And has to retire.
Yeah.
Back to where he's from. So in this chapter we had the Athenians, it was written that the Athenians displayed a lot of courage and their naval superiority was shown in battles when they were outnumbered 2-1, like with the first battle of the 40-20, by the Spartan forces, which also reinforces Thucydides' argument that Athens would likely have won the war if they had not lost Pericles, because Pericles could have kept, adding fuel to that courageous fire for the Athenians.
Pericles was to me like the most like stabilizing source of the Athenians, like the one who thought the most clear-headedly, and like the one who like actually saw the interest of all states and what each state had an advantage with.
Yeah. Yeah, even Thucydides mentioned Pericles. He was really good at when they would win, keeping them grounded. Right, don't get ahead of yourselves. The war's not over. And if they lose, Pericles would reassure them, "It's fine. We'll come back for this. We'll be stronger." So they're missing that kind of stability and leadership.
Because in chapter 1 and in chapter 1 as well, like there was battles. They did mention how like even Pericles was pressured into sending people to like stop them. So but like Pericles, like while he pretty much understood he had to do something, I think my interpretation is that like he did the bare minimum so like Athens wouldn't suffer, because like again, Pericles in the first book said our strength is not on land, and that's the sparring strength. Our strength is at sea. Let's stick to it.
Yeah. I mean, I sort of kind of agree with Thucydides. I see him again as like a competent leader who also understood a lot of the geopolitics.
Thucydides or Pericles?
Pericles. And like to me, he also seems sort of like an opposite of, let's say, Xerxes. Whereas Xerxes just thinks that he's the greatest and doesn't take into account real sort of criticisms, or like he doesn't take into account like the real negatives or disadvantages of his forces. Pericles clearly sees that and also wants to see the big picture. It's almost like, I don't know if the book had talked about this, but it's almost like he's forcing this war because he sees that the Spartans are rising up and they're starting to challenge Athens a little bit. And he feels like he needed to force this war to prevent that from happening. I don't know.
No, I disagree actually.
You disagree, Paul?
I kind of see it as the opposite, because like historically speaking, Athens wasn't really a big dog like for most of like their history up till their empire. Like as we saw with the Iliad and the Odyssey, Athens wasn't really much to talk about. Like even in their plays, while this Athens is a setting, like the characters were the characters weren't necessarily Athenian. And like with Herodotus, like Athens, like the only time Athens managed to like do something very notable was in the battle of Marathon and the battle of Salamis. Those are like, that's when like Athens started to rise up. And like,
so you think Athens is the up and comer?
Yes, because
and the Spartans are the old guard.
Yeah, because like Sparta like has pretty much like always been like a pretty big deal, like up till that point.
Yeah.
And like Athens, after like Xerxes just said, yeah, we're done with this. After Xerxes said we're done with this, we saw Athens, like they won in like self-mutual defense league with a bunch of island nations that were Greek descent. But then like after like the island nations stopped seeing the utility in it, Athens said, no, this is ours. Like
This is still, you're still gonna stay, yeah.
like he kind of like in the back door like managed to conquer them without actually using that much violence. So and we can like further see this in the first chapter, where we see how pretty much how the Spartans are saying, hey, Athens, like they kind of have an empire and they're being pretty aggressive right now.
So we gotta curb them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like let's not forget, Athens is kind of the one that started it actually.
Yeah.
By being so aggressive, yeah. Okay, yeah. I did get them confused, yeah. I mean, Dylan, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, again, as Paul alluded to, Athens, like we saw early on, they betrayed a lot of their alliances early in the first one, and that's what caused the Spartans to say, listen, they're clearly going, like, they're losing, all of the truces that they made are being severed. So clearly we could be next. So let's retaliate. Let's stop them from this, and let's try and keep it all together. And yeah.
Okay.
Well, like, honestly, with book 2, while there's like, it was interesting to like see how they thought of it. Like in terms of big picture, there wasn't much to talk about. Like,
The biggest thing that happens in book 2 is Pericles is death.
It's like, yeah, it's the plague and the death of Pericles. Like,
Yeah.
like honestly, there was like the invasion of Attica, like the fall of Potidea, this things with Plataea, like, but like this, like Thucydides did spend a lot of time like talking about it, like talking about like the particulars, but it's not interesting to really talk about like the particulars when like mostly it's easier to talk about like the grand scale of things.
The grand ideas.
Like the grand ideas. So I don't
But I see this recurring theme, and Paul, you brought it up when the city of Potidea was discussing with the Athenians, is that like the rule of the strong, right? Because Potidea, they like there's no morality, at least that we're used to in this book. It really just seems like it's states bullying each other, in particular Athens. Like you said, with the alliances with the other island nations, other island Greek city-states, and then with Potidea asking, hey, they're going to try to destroy our city. Can we stay neutral, or do you still want us to fight? And Athens is like, no, just go fighting with us. Like disregard of their situation.
and like again, let's remember, Athens had all of their women and children. Like
Yeah,
they literally hold it in their hands, so like they can do whatever they want.
exactly. Which sort of goes into Thucydides' theme of the person who's on top is the one that dictates the rules, and they will dictate the rules not for the benefit of everybody equally or fairly, but for themselves.
I think there is one thing I will say is that Pericles talks a lot of like you benefit the like it's better to benefit the state rather than like individual benefit. I mean, he see how like Thucydides said like that was a problem after Pericles died, because like after Pericles died, everyone was after their own self-interest rather than the interest of the state, and that causes problems.
Yeah.
As in they lost the war.
Yeah.
That's spoiler alert.
And he also sort of blamed, he also some like politician. It's like that same thing with, what was it, Euripides? Where
Aristophanes.
the playwright who criticizes politicians who just please the people instead of making their own good sound decisions. I believe it was Euripides or Aristophanes.
I think it was Aristophanes.
Aristophanes.
Yeah, okay. So much like Aristophanes, Thucydides also takes the same opinion. He believes that if you're ruling a state, you gotta be really, really smart. It's like almost like technocratic in a sense. You gotta be really smart and capable, and use your logic and intuition and your leadership capabilities to make decisions, and not just appealing to the lowest common denominator. Yeah.
Oh, I also do find it interesting as well that Thucydides hasn't moralized the system of kings and democracies against each other. Like
No, he hasn't put any sort of moral values, which is a similarity, of course, to Herodotus that we could pick up on.
well, yeah, that's because I like the biggest thing Athens likes is democracy. That's like their thing. So like for an Athenian to like not really glorify it or like to care about it as much, I think it's interesting.
And shows us like Thucydides' like nuanced way of thinking.
It could also be that like Thucydides like does see that Athens is like a very problematic democracy. Even if we exclude all like they have slaves, they don't allow women to vote. Even like for their core audience, it's still pretty flawed. Like it has lots of problems, and I think, and my guess is we're gonna see those problems start to stack up on each other as we get into it.
Okay, good prediction. I predict that this war again. When I told you guys, I only read like the first 2 books just to read ahead, just for interest. Back when we were still on the Greek playwrights. I think the way Thucydides thinks and where he's taking it, I think we're gonna see a very bloody war that's gonna go much longer than people think. It also might encompass new generations. So by the time this war's over, I don't think the same people who started it are gonna be alive when it ends. That's again my prediction.
Pericles is already dead. So.
Well, yes, but
So like
the other rulers. Yeah, really. But what I really mean is people within that generation. Even I don't think they're gonna see the end of this war. I think it's gonna be very long and protracted. It's gonna cause a lot of destruction and doom and gloom for a lot of the people in Greece, and I think we're gonna see an outcome that we did not predict. That you could maybe you could predict who wins, but like what happens within that is definitely gonna be a surprise. That's my guess. Having never read past book 2.
how long does the war last? Like what, 20 years? Like 15?
I believe it was 15 or 20, Paul. Yeah, or 30 actually.
30? Was it
Even.
30 years?
30.
Oh no, you're the guys who went to Greek elementary school.
We actually didn't learn about this war. We learned more about the Greco-Persian one. They kind of skipped the one where the Greeks fight each other.
It should, like we could just.
Is it in here, Paul?
No, it does. No, it never mentions like. I'm not sure it mentions the date of the war. Well,
431 to 404. So 30 years.
more 27. Yeah, that's like about a generation.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure till what point Thucydides covers, because he did die before he could finish it. So, like, maybe we'll like see 20 years of it, maybe.
Perhaps.
But you're talking about like how things are going to go wind out of control. What do you think of it?
So at this point, have Athens named a new leader, or are they still ruling under the population?
They're still ruling under the population.
Okay. Because I don't know much about what's going to happen, but I wonder if they decide to name a new ruler, or if they just stick to ruling through democracy, just from the majority.
Because for me, like, I think like a big strength Sparta has is that even when one of the rulers die, they have like a clear line of succession.
Yeah.
And like in the case where like someone's like too young to inherit, like they have like a region of sort. And it's also the case that like it's obviously it's never brought up, but like I do know a bit about how Spartan is like ruled internally. And it's like, while it's bad in the long term, in terms of like war, it's pretty useful.
Makes sense, because the whole society is based on war.
Yeah.
It's more like they're really great at keeping their society the way it is. So like
Maintaining the status quo.
they're really good at that. And Athens
Is always trying to progress and push the envelope and always wants to improve and get better.
kind of like it's more like rather than have the power like concentrated in the hands of a few, like Athens is like having a more
Relatively.
relatively equal power structure. But the problem is, this is like before they've had centuries and millennia of seeing the problems with previous democracies or republics. So
At this point, they've just started democracy, right?
Yeah.
Or has it been happening for centuries on?
I don't think it's been happening for centuries. I could be wrong, but I'm not exactly sure. But like democracy is new to them as well.
Yeah.
So like they're gonna see
It's gonna be less clear and obviously more susceptible to political turmoil.
you're gonna see there's lots of problems that can come with democracy, especially if it's done poorly.
Yeah.